Jen, you want to lead us off?
Well, obviously the win is a good win, but did it look as good on the review of tape than when you were watching it live?
You know, normally when you have a bad performance, you look at it on tape, and it's a little better than what you thought because there's always emotion in sports. And you get tense. This one looked similar. It was a little bit better on tape than what we actually felt because everybody was happy and joy and knew whose goal and all that. But some of the tactical things that we were able to accomplish were good. And so when we reviewed the film today, we went over some of the, not just the goals, but some of the little details, devil's in the details of what we did good in that game. Because we're going into a 3-game away from home stretch where the littlest detail might make the difference in getting points or not.
One of the details was Ryan, and do you feel that he's 90-minute fit to start a match, or?
He could start a match. I don't know if he'd be 90 minutes fit, but he could definitely start.
And between him and they're obviously different players, him and Paul, but
sure.
What do you kind of see between the difference? Because Ryan seemed to make a real impact, obviously.
Yeah. Well, again, if you listen to his comments after the game, the game was a little easier when he came on. I think we had control of the game, so I appreciated that comment. But look, he's a super talented player. So, how do we get him on the field? How do we reward Paul for his hard work? It's going to be competitions, and I wouldn't say it's just that position and Paul and Ryan, but Paul's first inclusion into the first squad. If you remember that game against Minnesota in Leagues Cup when Alex Roldan went down, and then he jumped on the right wing and he did pretty good. So Paul can fit different spots. Ryan is kind of more left wing, but there's good competition in multiple spots.
Brian, we saw Jesus working on his own. Yeah. What is his status so far?
Look, we're going to try and get them into as much training as they can for this 3-game stretch. Does he make the first game? Maybe. If he doesn't make the second game, chances are pretty good he'd make the middle game. And if he has a setback, then he'll for sure be ready by the last game, Portland. But we'll see. We're taking that on a day-by-day basis.
And just 2 more. Jackson seem to be full training, perhaps, and then
he's still in modified training, but he's on the same program. He's got to pass some tests this week, but he's close as well. If he doesn't make the first game, maybe it's the second. If it's not the second, I'm sure he'll be ready for minutes by the third.
And then he went in early. Is everything okay with Danny Musovski? Danny Musovski?
Yeah, that was planned.
Okay.
Everything's good there.
Hey, Brian, it looked on film, in my layman's view of it, that Christian Rodan really played an integral part, just up, down, sideways, and then can you just talk about his importance?
We talked about Obed and Christian in their range. The final data, they were both over 12K. Their HID was very high, their VHID was very high, so the two of them together make a pretty effective pair in running. But soccer is not just about running, it's about smarts and it's about technique and some of those things. So Christian and Obed had good games.
Did you have an emphasis on, in the second half, quick ball movement? Because that also seemed to make a difference, or that just organically?
That happened. When you get on top of teams, and they were playing, 5-4-1, you had one forward up front, it made us easier to progress the ball into the attacking part of the field. And I think that kind of helped us with our rhythm to the game. And then once we got rolling, then the team looks good.
Tacoma, Portland tonight, more than just a win. What do you want to see from the Sounders head coaching eyes from out of a bunch of...
A win. It's full dead stop. Come on. I don't want to give away the lineup, but I'm looking at some of the guys that we're going to put out there. I'm looking at the up-and-coming Snyders, Sebastian, Osaze. I'm looking for a competitive game, but man, I would love for an upset to happen, a cup set. That's the word I was searching for. I'd love for a cup set.
You gonna be there?
I'm going to be there for sure. I'm going to be in the beer garden with Marcus Hanneman.
Oh,
Do you expect Timbers to have a pretty starting lineup?
I have no idea.
Do you expect
Well,
that?
Phil, look, he's in a no-win situation because, if he brings his full crew and, he's got fixture congestion, if he brings a lighter crew and they don't win, it's a tough spot for Phil.
Going back to the game, speaking of players that played well, Alex Roldan coming back in his first game, he's going to have a really good game. How important was that for that competition at right back or wing back?
I think he got the message. Alex played extremely well, and it's just a product of, Kalani didn't play bad. I didn't take Kalani out of the lineup because he was playing poor, but I just had a little, I think Alex had a little more experience in a back four. And Alex performed extremely well.
When you talk about nuances, Albert's movement up top, and he was going, side to side, but also he was able to come back and distribute the ball. Can you give an assessment?
Highest physical output since he's been here at the club. Runs in behind, sprinting back, doing everything that he could to help his team win. Very proud of him and very impressed.
How much of that do you feel like it has to do with the competition? I've been covering this team for a while, and I can't remember the last time there was so much competition for so many positions.
Between 9 spots on the field, even your man Yaimar. What happens when Jackson comes back?
Even Yaimar.
Mm-hmm. Let's just throw it out there.
So
yes.
is this the most competitive when it comes to positional?
It's a very competitive group. I'd have to think about it and reflect a little more before I say something off the cuff, but certainly there's competition at 6, 7, 8 spots, and we, the coaching staff, are going to have our hands full.
How much, though, with that competition, do you, are you still working, though, to have like a Danny, obviously Ocasio, did that forward, though, like
center forward.
Yeah, to make sure, though, if you don't have a person who's trained forward mind, thinking, plays direct, to kind of fill that gap. It seems like you still don't have.
You're talking about a
striker.
A deep striker?
Yeah, like your line there is
Depth.
not as depth. Yeah, sorry. Depth there.
Well, if I'm understanding, you're talking about not a false 9, but you're talking about the roster depth.
Yeah.
The false 9.
Yeah, but
look, Jesus can play up there.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, but let's be fair to Jesus and the team. When we played Jesus as a false 9, the team wasn't in a good run of form. There were some guys missing an injury, and when there's a bunch of talented soccer players on the field, Jada, yes, you need to have, positional profiles, or you'd like to have positional profiles, but smart soccer players will figure out ways how to win games. And so that might still happen. You never know. Jordan's out still for an extended period of time, and Masowski can't play, 6 games in whatever it is, 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What do you see about of De Rosario, and how much has he done to maybe?
Tonight will be a big test. If the kid performs well tonight, I don't see any reason why we couldn't sign him.
Who buys the first round with you and Marcus are having beers?
I will. Marcus has done a lot for the club and me.